everyone, this is Mario again, coming at you with another movie review. Today I'm reviewing the sequel to the film that I reviewed last time. Now, I will first of all say that while the sequel is not as good as the Cronenberg film, I have to say it is a horror sequel that at least is a decent follow-up to the original, and overall an enjoyable movie. That, of course, is The Fly 2. Like father, like son, as the tagline says. Now, this is a collector's edition, and I can't wait. Like the first one, I can't wait to watch the special features on here. And of course, as you guys may remember, I mentioned in my last review, this is the film I saw first as a kid, and for some reason, I thought it was an alien movie. I guess it's because of the design of the fly and also the whole people chasing him with guns and stuff. But I'll get to that in a little bit. That part, maybe a little bit more specifically. Now, this movie, first of all, is basically a remake of Return of the Fly. Now, the plot of Return of the Fly was that Vincent Price's character is with his nephew, who is this little kid we saw in the original Fly movie. And the son finds out about his dad's experiments. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, so I don't remember how. And he decides to continue his research. Of course, Vincent Price is like, it destroyed your father. It could destroy you. He was careless. I won't be. And of course, one of his friends is backing him financially, and then there's some scuffles, and he is turned into a fly intentionally by his friend, or the guy who wanted, it was his assistant who wanted to steal his research. And of course, the fly genes make him go batshit crazy and want to go kill the people wronging him. And of course, I don't remember exactly what happens at the end, but it is kind of a happy ending if I remember right. Same thing here. Now, the only connections The Fly 2 and Return of the Fly have is that it focuses on the son of the original scientist. The son does become a fly, and it does involve some corporate backstabbing, I guess you could say. Other than that, the plots are completely different, which, of course, as you could say, should be. Especially now, this movie is directed by Chris Wallace, which I'm going to see real quickly what else he's directed. Okay, I got to go specifically to his Wikipedia page. That's he directed The Vagrant. He did makeup on Raiders of the Lost Ark and Scanners. And he did the special effects for both Fly movies, Arachnophobia, Naked Launch, Gremlins, Return of the Jedi, he was a creature consultant, Dragon Slayer, he did the close-up dragon, Piranha, he was special properties, and Enemy Mine, he was the alien's creator and designer, which, those had good special effects. So, now getting a guy with special effects to helm this movie, I guess you would figure why, but he does get some good performances out of the actors. Now, the main characters in this movie, we have three main characters. First, we have Martin Brundle, who is the son of Seth Brundle, and of course, Victoria, from the previous movie. He's played by Eric Stoltz, which, this is the only movie I've seen him in. I know he's been in other movies, and he's on some TV shows that I watch. Like, I believe he was in I believe he was in an episode of Law & Order or something like that. Let me check real quick. Let's see. He was in The Waltons. Oh, he was in that cartoon show Hercules. Will and Grace. Yeah, Law and Order, Special Victims. Hey, wait a minute. I think I have that episode over there. I think that's the episode that involves child molestation in the Catholic Church. Yeah. Yeah, he played a priest in that one. Yeah. That's who I remember. Yeah, I like that character. Yeah. And of course, Beth Logan is played by Daphne Zuniga, if I'm pronouncing her name right, who we all remember from Spaceballs, which she made this movie not that long after Spaceballs. She's good in this movie as well, and she plays Martin's love interest, which I buy their romance. To me, it's believable. Office romance. And of course, our antagonist is Anton Bartok, played by Lee Richardson, which he doesn't have a page, so I can't look at what else he's been in, but he does such a good job here. He kind of how he acts and how his character is written. It kind of reminds me of a little bit of the old man from RoboCop, which when I get into the plot, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's good that they actually brought that whole Bartok thing that they only mentioned loosely in the first film into it. Now, out of all the characters in the film, excuse me, it was Veronica was the name of the mother. Excuse me, brain fart. It wasn't Victoria. It was Veronica. Excuse me. Now, those of you who probably realize that goof, you're like, you idiot! No. Now, only one actor from the previous film returned, and that, of course, is John Getz, returning as his character of Stathis. Pronouncing his name right. Let me find. I think his name is. Stathis Borans. Which, of course, as we all know, what happened to his hand, his leg in the previous movie. We barely see him. He's only in 2 scenes, so he's not really used well. But he's, for what the time he's there, he's good. And then, of course, the scene at the end, he says one of my favorite lines in the movie when he's talking about Seth Brundle. He bugged me. I just love that line. And, of course, sadly, Geena Davis doesn't return as Veronica. Instead, she's played... Let me find the actress's name. She's played by actress Saffron Henderson, which... Those of you who know horror movies remember that she played JJ in Friday the 13th Part 8, which is that one character that Jason killed with the axe guitar. And those of you who know even more will know that she is more recently known for anime dubbing. Like, she played Gohan in the first 53 episodes of the Ocean dub of Dragon Ball Z. And also she did a character in Death Note. She did some voice work for Rama and a half. She played Callisto in X-Men Evolution. I know that's not an anime, but I just want to thank it. And of course, this is the character I know her mostly for. She voiced Sota as well as Eri in the English dub of one of my favorite animes, Inuyasha. But she does a pretty good job there. Now, as Veronica, she's there. I mean, her character doesn't really have any character development, which is why Geena Davis decided not to reprise her role, which I could see why. Especially considering the original idea they had. The original idea that they had for this film was that Veronica would be dealing with the evils of the Bartok Company, and somehow, in this idea, was that Seth Brundle's consciousness was somehow within the telepod computer, and the Bartok scientists were enslaving him and using him to develop a system for cloning purposes using the telepods. Then Brundle somehow communicated with Veronica, and she made a new body for him that was non-contaminated. How that would have worked, I don't know. Would have been interesting to see, like using telepods for cloning, which that would have been interesting. And the whole thing with Seth's mind being in the telepod, I wonder. Excuse me, while I adjust my glasses. I wonder how that would have worked. I mean, how they would have come up with that. Granted, I haven't read the screenplay, so I don't know how it was explained, but I still wonder how that would have worked. Now, the funny thing about this is that Cronenberg actually endorsed that concept, which I can see probably why he would. And Geena Davis was open for doing the sequel when that was the idea. And like I mentioned earlier, she only pulled out because she dies in the first scene and no character development. And also Goldblum only wanted a cameo, which, from the new body reflects the treatment. He probably would have only had to do like voice work and stuff. Now, I haven't even talked about the plot of the movie. The plot is, of course, that Martin Brundle was born 9 months after. About 9 months, maybe 8 months after the ending of the first film. And we find out that he actually was conceived after Seth started to become a fly in the first film. So he's basically born like in a pupa thing, and then he comes out as a normal baby. And because of how flies age, he's aging faster. Like, he ages at 4 times, I think it's 4 times the rate of a normal human. So by the time he's 3, he's supposed to be about 12. Well, he grows up in the Bartok Company, and they basically raise him there. Giving him shots and stuff and having him take tests. And we see that he's actually about as smart as his father was when he died, maybe even smarter. When he becomes of age, 5 years old, physically 20, Mr. Bartok decides to have him work on the telepods because, like I said, he's about as smart as Seth, maybe even smarter. Because for some reason the telepods aren't working, which they never really explain this in the movie, but From what I understand in the script, I don't know if it was in the final shooting one, we find out that Stathis had taken the chips from the telepods. How he would have known which ones to take, I don't know, but that's the reason they're not working, which would have been nice for them if they'd actually explained that, why. And of course, you could figure he eventually does get them working. Well, as the film goes on, we see that Bartok and the rest of his lackeys just want to use Martin, and they've been lying to him his whole life. Like, those shots aren't really shots, for example. Now, you can see probably why they want him to work on the telepod, because, you know, the possibilities are endless with it. But soon, mutations start to happen with him. This happens more towards the end of the movie, and it's interesting how it starts to happen. It starts to happen slowly, like it happened with Seth. And like with Seth, he has that love interest who was watching him and, you know, is very worried for his safety. But unlike Seth, when he transforms, it becomes kind of like a slasher movie. Where the first movie is tragic and stuff, this one is kind of like, it kind of has some of that tragedy, but it, like I mentioned it just a few seconds ago, it has slasher elements. Because the people that Seth hurts in his movie, like Stathis, for example, the guy may be an ass, but that's no excuse for him getting his arm and leg melted off. Well, then again, you can't really blame Seth for what he does, because he's out of his mind by that point. But the Bartok company and its employees, like the security guard and, of course, the owner, by that point in the movie, you really want them to die, so unlike most slasher movies, you're actually rooting for the guy who's doing the slashing. So once Seth gets out of his cocoon and in full fly form, you really want him to own everybody. I mean, I was like, yeah, get that guy, get that guy. Funny thing is, he only uses the acid spit once, though. But it is kind of funny. If you pay close attention to the guy he uses on it, is kind of funny. Those of you who've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. The animatronics for the final fly form, magnificent. And how it looks a lot different than how Seth looked in his final transformation, but I actually have a theory for this. In the first movie, Seth, as he became a fly, it was because of the telepods reintegrating his DNA with fly DNA. So it was unnatural. I guess you could say kind of like in the first X-Men movie, the mutations that Magneto did with that machine. They created mutations, but since they were made using unnatural means, they were unstable and caused the death of the host. Now, when Seth reaches his final form from this note, he looks like a fly, and he's probably physically stronger than a human, but he would be weaker than, let's say, someone who was born and mutated that way, like, let's say, Martin. Because Martin, he's born with his DNA like that, so it's not going to have the structural instability that his father has. So not only is his final form going to look stronger, but it's going to be more, it's going to be stronger, it's going to be more superior, I guess you could say, like evolution, in the generational thing of evolution. First generation strong, breeding, the next generation will be even stronger, something like that. And while I'm on the subject, the makeup for Martin before his transformation, beautiful. And this is the scenes that I really love Eric Stoltz in this role, because he first is all despaired, but then as he reaches the end of his transformation, unlike Seth, he starts to enjoy it, which is, like I mentioned, goes with that whole thing of him actually feeling stronger. Like that line we see in the trailer, he said when he's talking with Beth, "You're getting worse. I'm getting better." And then he's taking his eye off, and you see the insect eye, stuff like that. Now, obviously, I don't want to spoil anything, but Bartok, he gets a very good comeuppance in the end, and unlike the first movie, it has a happy ending, which I know you can see coming, and we actually want Martin to have a happy ending, to learn from his father's mistakes. Now, there's one scene, I think it was in the final shooting script, that I really wish they had shot. I really wish they had been able to get the money to shoot it, and that was that Martin would have watched a final videotape that his father made explaining the final solution of how to cure himself. I mean, he finds out. We see how he finds out in the final film is okay, but this would have been better to actually hear it from his father's mouth. Problem with that, of course, is they'd have to get Jeff Goldblum back, put him in makeup, and that's gonna cost money and stuff. But it would have been nice. Just like the one scene where we see of him watching Jeff Goldblum, where he finds out about the fly thing. We know that was not something he recorded. Granted, the movie tries to play it off, but it's basically a scene they took from the first movie that we know wasn't recorded. But I guess the storyline thing is that he's supposed to be him recording it, and they're passing it off as a different part, which I just go with it. But you can really notice it. That's not what it's from, just by how he's looking. He's not looking at the camera. Now, my final rating for The Fly 2, I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Like I said, it's not as good as the original. I mean, like, the director, he's okay. More of a special effects guy. And I love the film. It just makes me wonder how the film would have been if they had actually gotten a different director. Like, have Chris still in charge of, like, the special effects, but get, like, a director that knows how to interact with people. Like, maybe Kersinger, the guy who directed Empire Strikes Back and RoboCop 2. Of course, let's see, I think this was 88, so... No, 89, the year I was born. Ironic. Yeah, you could imagine if he had directed Fly 2. Now, all the acting performances would have been better. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about Bartok yet. Like I mentioned earlier, Bartok, all they care about is making money off of Martin. All they care about, it's basically the epitome. They are the epitome of all the evils of capitalism and of corporations. Getz, just like OCP Communications, not Mike, are in RoboCop 2. Although, unlike the old man, Bartok does get a comeuppance, like I mentioned. Like I said, 4 out of 4. If you are a fan of Cronenberg's film and you haven't seen this movie, I recommend you at least give it a watch for curiosity's sake.